at the moment he's trapped. And they have big secrets that are in danger of being exposed. So, and he's totally complicit in much of what has gone on. So it's not going to be that easy to dismantle. And if she goes ballistic, what's she going to say? What's she going to say? I mean, is she going to say, oh, well, they forced me. They forced me to pretend I was Meghan? Is that what she's going to say?
Lady C, I wanted to refer you specifically to Maureen Callahan, who is a columnist now with the Mail, but she was previously with the New York Post. And she is warning in a new column that she thinks Harry and Meghan are separating publicly. And she's warning that such humiliation may spur Meghan to go truly nuclear. So do you think their marriage is at a stage where it's that bad?
Well, Dan, my understanding of what she said is what I have been saying for some time now,
Yes.
that they were advised to go their separate ways professionally. He would take the royal route, she would take the celebrity route, and that, but they need the royal link. I think that's sort of what she's saying, unless I'm mistaken. I don't think she's actually saying that they are separated as a couple. But my understanding is that the marriage is extremely rocky. And they say once hunger comes in through the window, love goes out through the door. And okay, Harry's got himself another 7 or 8 million, which will last for a short while. But I mean, that's not real money, and that's not money the way they live. And they have billionaires, they have a billionaire's lifestyle on a mere millionaire's income. Their annual income would require them to have between $500 and $600 million. He's only worth about 40 million. So do the math. I mean, they are spending what in effect is the totality of his worth. It's insanity. It's unsustainable. But will she go nuclear? Let her try to, because nobody believes a word out of her mouth now. So even if she spoke the truth, which she wouldn't know the meaning of it, if the truth hit her on her face, she'd think it was a fly or maybe a crab.
Yeah, because
you know?
see what Maureen Callahan is essentially saying a lot of what you have previously said. But she has said the time has come to gather, stand in our strength, find our voices, speak our truth, and brace for impact because Meghan may be about to go nuclear. Now she says it's because Harry isn't happy and he's done the unthinkable this week, traveling to and participating in events surrounding the UN General Assembly, all without Meghan. They say some have said she is too sick to join, but Maureen Callahan says it must be frustrating for a woman who thrives in any spotlight, who will accept any award, no matter how meaningless, even if she must enter through a rental car office to collect it. But it might also be true that Harry, famously called thick by his own mother, is finally catching on. And he doesn't look happy, Lady C, at the
No,
moment. And he
I
hasn't for
gather
some
he's
time.
not happy. I gather he's not happy, and he's not been happy for some time. And I think the scales are falling off his eyes, but to an extent, at the moment, he's trapped. And they have big secrets that are in danger of being exposed. So, and he's totally complicit in much of what has gone on. So it's not going to be that easy to dismantle. And if she goes ballistic, what's she going to say? What's she going to say? I mean, is she going to say, oh, well, they forced me. They forced me to pretend I was Meghan? Is that what she's going to say? Or, and they did it because they didn't want people of color in the royal family. Well, Gerald Lascelles is married.
Mm.
I think it's Gerald is married to anyway. The present Lord Harwood's brother is married to a black woman. The Duke of Gloucester's daughter married somebody who was either Maori or Aborigine. I don't remember which one. Gary Lewis is his name. They have two children.
I mean, I
Diana
guess.
had Indian blood, as I am the person who revealed it in my first Dan book. And then about 30 years later, or 25 years later, the Times of India plastered it on its front page after Prince William gave his DNA to prove that Eliza Keogh was an Anglo-Indian who was Ruth Gill's, I think, great-grandmother. So they have, and then, of course, there is Queen Charlotte, who was
Yeah.
6 times descended from Madrigana of Pharaoh, who was an African. So, I mean,
And who
to say
Bridgerton
that
is
they
based
are
on.
purely Caucasian is ludicrous. But
Yeah.
but let's see what anything she comes up with at this stage. I don't think is credible.
I mean,
I think
did you
she's lost
find it
all
credible,
credibility.
the PR that was going around Harry's trip? I mean, look at this headline, for example. Prince Harry FaceTimed Meghan Markle, Prince Archie, and Princess Lilibet before taking to the stage with Diana Award winners in New York. I mean, that just feels like more PR to me.
Yes. Well, they're showing how solid the marriage is, and he's a happy family man. And you know as well as I do, when people have to keep on showing how happy they are, it's usually because they're not, unless, of course, there are stories that have been planted by malicious in laws, as happened with the Waleses, where so
Yeah.
they've
But
had
there
to
are
address.
so many similarities, aren't there, to Charles and Diana in the early 90s when they were trying to say everything was okay, but they just looked so miserable. And Harry just seemed out of sorts in New York, Lady C. I wanted to show you this moment because he talks about the Jamaican government, but he just wasn't really engaged at all. It felt a bit like he's given up. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. I mean, Lady C, it's just total word salad.
It's insanity. It's rubbish. I mean, he's on the one hand saying there are so many problems that governments have to cope with, which there are, and they're usually coping very ineffectually, I have to say. And then he's on the other hand saying, but then you will bring in young people who are inexperienced and therefore uh, would might be able to have an opinion, but wouldn't necessarily have a solution. They won't He wants them to be brought in to the decision making process. I mean, the guy's a total idiot. I mean, if he'd ever run anything except his mouth, he'd know that it's not possible to have if you're going to be running something, there has to be a leader. There has to be somebody who is the ideas person. And then yes, you have people who are going to go along with you and help you. But you can't have endless input. It creates havoc. It doesn't create a solution. And the idea that governments should have young people telling it, it's so stupid. I mean, but he is stupid. Listen, this is a guy who at school could only pass words. He couldn't even pass his art exam. And believe me, nowadays, where you don't even have to do life drawing or anything, passing an art exam is so easy. A 2-year-old child would be able to be declared a genius with smudges and thing all over a canvas. And he couldn't even pass that. You know, it's offensive on a certain
Yeah.
level. It's but
No.
but there he is pontificating.
Oh, I
And
know.
but what was interesting, Dan, was that Jamaican girl
Yes.
made some very good, interesting points in terms of the way where the world is heading now in terms of political instability, of governments creating havoc and warmongering. I mean, she made some really good points, which I was totally in favor of. And of course, I was proud of my compatriot because she was so intelligent. But he's just an idiot, that man.
Yes, that's the perfect way, I think, to sum up his New York trip. But Lady C, I want to talk to you about the other big story which has a royal connection this week. Mohamed Al-Fayed, these explosive revelations from the BBC with multiple rape claims. For folk who don't know, Mohamed Al-Fayed was, of course, the father of Dodi Al-Fayed, who died in the Paris tunnel with Princess Diana, the owner of Harrods for many years. But they're pulling in a woman, Lady C, called Anne Coxon into this and seemingly trying to turn her almost into the Ghislaine Maxwell of the piece. And I believe you have a personal connection with her and some real insight into what the BBC are trying to do here.
I do. She's my private GP, and she is an extremely eminent member of the medical profession. She, I mean, I won't even dragging half the names in the medical profession as well as her patients. I mean, it is absolutely outrageous, in my view, that the BBC can be, and they've mounted this as a deflection campaign because they knew Hugh Edwards had to plead guilty. They have had a series of scandals, all of which they have managed to dampen down. There was the Jimmy Savile matter. Then there was the Martin Bashir matter, where Martin Bashir practically drove the already troubled Diana to insanity. And I mean, literal insanity, because she ended up being paranoid in the medical sense of the word, gratis his lies. Not only did they know about this, but they covered it up for 25 years. They destroyed the career of the person who originally complained about it. I'm saying artist because I don't know the technological
Yeah, he
terms,
was like the
but
graphic
he's the one
designer,
who,
wasn't he? Yeah, I know who you mean.
yeah, yes, he's the one who did at their behest, thinking they were genuine. He did the mock-ups of the he
The fake
they
invoices, yeah.
practically drove Diana to suicide. They 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 certainly drove her to madness. You know, she got rid of many of her trusted people because she thought they were betraying her. And they provided the absolute proof of it. All forgeries. Did anybody go to prison? Was anybody charged with a crime? Why weren't they charged with a crime? I'll tell you part of the reason why they weren't charged with a crime. One of the former BBC top guys who did something with me here about a year and a half ago, he said the fact of the matter is that large part of the BBC is run by MI5 and MI6. And that's the reason why they are able to get away with everything with impunity, because so many members of the BBC, not all, and the rest of them are so woke and left-wing and anti-establishment and anti the old established order. They are in the process of trying to create their new establishment, which is very woke, very left-wing, very right-on, very, well, of course, if we're white, we've got to be middle class, but we've got to be brown and black as well. And let in all the illegal immigrants. And why should the ethnic Britons be at the front of the queue when we have to show the world how wonderful we are? And at least we show each other. And so there's a whole recalibration society, this society that's been going on. And to a large extent, the BBC is up to hair in it. And so there's that. And they knew that the Hugh Edwards thing was going to be particularly damaging. And what did they do? They had this program prepared before so that as soon as Hugh Edwards was found guilty, which they knew he was going to plead guilty, that they would be able to knock it out of the front pages, because Hugh Edwards is a BBC person with no links to the royal family, but Mohamed Al-Fayed had links to the royal family. And not only through Dodi, because he was for years, he supported the Windsor horse trials. I've been to them. I've seen him beside the Queen. Friends of mine were in the carriages with all of them. You know, so they actually, and a lot of them are pretty anti-royalist. It's their dream come true, because not only do they then create something about the old established order, and the corruption of the old established order, when nobody's more corrupt than the BBC. And they've orchestrated this whole thing. And now poor Annie Coxon is they're going after her. But I'm going to make one or two legal points where Annie Coxon is concerned.
Please.
First of all, she's a very good doctor and a very reputable doctor. She's one of the most reputable doctors in this country, and they are going after her. Also, she's a woman of a certain age. First of all, nobody has medical records going back 30 or 40 years. They're not kept. So that's the first thing. So it's going to be her word against women who are going to be saying that they were taken advantage of. Excuse me. I worked at Harrods. Everybody that I know worked at Harrods. My nephew by marriage, who's the present Duke of Argyll, he worked at Harrods. Princess Katerina of Yugoslavia, she worked at Harrods. My brother worked at Harrods. I mean, endless. Everybody who was from a good family at some point worked at Harrods. And, you know, the idea that it was this hotbed of, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Also, if you listen to that program, and I've listened to it very carefully, the girls, for instance, one of them admits she was given £500 and she was given another £500. What did she think she was being given that money for? And also, who ever heard of anybody who was going to work in an office who's going for a medical examination? First of all, I should make the point, if the company is sending you, you have agreed that the results go to the company. That's how it works. You know, you don't go for an examination to a doctor and the company at the company's behest and the company's paying, and the company doesn't get the results. So right there, the whole thing is based on the false premise that the girls were not supposed, that the company was never supposed to get the results. But which girl beyond the age of 6 years old thinks that if she is going to a doctor to have her private parts examined, that it's because she's going to be typing? It's because there is a collusive element to this. Yes, absolutely. But those girls damn well knew what they were going for. And he was well known to be a lecher. But also, if you listen to what they said very carefully, they kept on spurning his advances, and he didn't dismiss them. I think, and also what helps to make this the glorious stitch up that it is, and I know members of the Qatari royal family, is that the Qatari royal family is very, very aware of its dignity, and the Qatari sovereign fund owns Harrods, and the Qatari royal family has taken the decision to dispense with this and they have already made an announcement how horrified they were by these accusations, and that they are going to be settling with everybody. So it's an open checkbook with all sorts of women and the lawyers involved. And Gloria already is known to be one of the biggest ambulance chasers on earth. I mean, she does some good for some people, and she does pro bono occasionally, but she's on 50% of the takings of everything else. She's made hundreds of millions for herself. Then you have the English lawyers, and they're all encouraging people to come forward. I mean, the jokes that are going around privately about people saying, well, maybe I should decide that when I was walking through Harrods in 1992, that Mohammed pinched my bottom and it traumatized me, and so I need
and here's £50,000.
£500,000. The whole thing is outrageous, and it's been orchestrated cynically by the BBC. And my understanding is that it was on the news. I think it was yesterday morning from 8:30 to 9 o'clock. They are busy pushing this. And one of the lawyers said he's the greatest corporate sexual predator of all time. What about P. Diddy? I mean, give me a break.
Well, what about Jimmy Savile? What about Jimmy Savile within the BBC? The worst paedophile in British history. And I think you're completely right to point out the timing of this being designed very much to deflect from the Hugh Edwards allegations. And look, the thing is, you've really got to look into things when it's coming from the BBC, because I call them the British bashing corporation. They cannot be trusted. So that's all I'm saying. You can never take the BBC at their word, can you, Lady C?
Well, I would have called them the British bastards corruption.
I like that.
One of the biggest talking points is the suggestion that Harry and Meghan have been advised to separate their professional brands rather than continue appearing together at every opportunity. According to several commentators, Harry's royal background continues to generate interest in humanitarian work and charitable events, while Meghan has increasingly focused on entertainment, lifestyle projects, and celebrity branding. Whether this represents a strategic business decision or simply an evolution of their individual careers remains open to interpretation, but it has certainly fueled fresh speculation about the state of their relationship. Another issue frequently raised involves the financial realities of maintaining a high-profile lifestyle outside the royal family. Since stepping back from royal duties, Harry and Meghan have secured several commercial partnerships, media projects, and publishing deals. However, commentators continue debating whether maintaining luxury properties, extensive security arrangements, travel, and business operations create significant long-term financial pressure. While only the couple knows the true state of their finances, questions about sustainability continue to appear whenever new projects or contracts are announced. Much of the recent commentary centers on public perception. Several analysts argue that Harry appears noticeably more relaxed during solo engagements compared to some joint appearances with Meghan. Others caution that interpreting body language from public events is highly subjective and should not be treated as evidence of private relationship dynamics. Nevertheless, the growing number of solo appearances has become another factor fueling ongoing speculation. Harry's recent appearance at a youth-focused international event also generated discussion. During his remarks, he emphasized the importance of including younger generations in conversations about public policy and future decision-making. Supporters viewed the comments as encouraging greater civic participation, while critics questioned whether the ideas offered practical solutions to complex governmental challenges. As with many of Harry's recent speeches, reactions were sharply divided depending on perspective. One broader issue emerging from these discussions concerns leadership itself. Many organizations already seek input from younger generations while balancing that with experienced decision-makers. The challenge is finding the right balance between fresh ideas and practical experience. Harry's comments have therefore sparked a wider conversation about youth engagement rather than simply focusing on his own role as a public figure. Whether Harry and Meghan are simply pursuing separate professional strategies or navigating deeper personal challenges remains unknown. What is certain is that every public appearance, speech, interview, and media report is now examined through the lens of their relationship, their future, and their ongoing connection to the royal family. Until either the Sussexes or Buckingham Palace provide greater clarity, speculation will almost certainly continue to dominate the conversation. For now, the story remains one of public scrutiny, evolving careers, and an uncertain path forward that continues to attract global attention.